Hello and welcome to this video where, amongst other things, you will see how focusing on repetition will help you to construct a speech.
Here we can see the student needed to write words as numbers, or rather numbers as words, and that they are clearly writing a speech here as well. Okay, so to really understand writing, we need to read some parts to it. So it starts off, "Good morning, fellow peers and teachers. Today I've come to persuade you on this matter, or persuade you that this matter is serious. And I've put here school versus life, because I think maybe in school you might say something like this, but in an actual speech outside of school, you would want to dive straight into persuasion. And of course, if you tell someone that you're trying to persuade them, then that may not be persuasive. There are arguments that are made that if you're trying to sell somebody something, which is a distinct part of persuasion in life, you want to tell them what you're going to persuade them. But I wouldn't really necessarily tell them that you're going to persuade them, just tell them the thing that you want them to be thinking, perhaps. The student here is able to think of a useful rhetorical question, then they answer it. There are other methods of rhetorical questions that I'm going to show you at a later point, not in this video. They then change the pacing of the writing by developing this anecdote that talks about about disasters are happening elsewhere. The use of pronouns here is very useful. The reference to you connects the external anecdote of the disaster affecting a different country with the reader themselves. This then shifts to the personal pronouns relating to the speaker, me and my team. One thing useful here to realize is the I versus me conundrum. And the way to understand this is as follows. When you speak to your friends in everyday life, it's not a huge problem in that context to say me and my team. In fact, it may even sound more correct because people often speak in that way. They say me and my mother. However, in terms of writing, if you were to remove this extra piece of detail and my team, you couldn't say me have invented. Here you can clearly see you need to say I have invented. And in that instance, you would say my team and I have invented. So to do this, try to delete the extra detail in your mind and decide, do you need me or I? Now, in terms of this part of the speech, the impact of the natural disasters is spoken about. And that's a very useful change in pace. We're coming now to the latter part of this piece of creative writing, and the contributions are being spoken about. And we can see that the contributions are being framed as significant yet easy to do. Then we can see the raising of the contribution and the linking a pronoun with modality. Modality are words like could, should, and it's the language of possibility. We now end the speech with a developing rhythm. And this is useful, I think, to end almost every single speech with. We'll certainly have in at some point. By varying the sentence length and making them go from short, then building up to a longer sentence, we have a sense of power. And the repetition at the beginning of sentences, some anaphora, is going to be useful as well. Often anaphora could be something where you repeat something simple and you then add in something more complex to each repetition, and that could be useful. So here the student said, Taiwan needs you, India needs you, they all need you. The repetition is the country and the verb need. To make this slightly more complex, what you could do is to say something like, Taiwan needs your money, India needs your support, they all need you to care. So in each instance, you're thinking of something more abstract, and in that sense, more complexity. So to summarize, notice how the student has varied sentence length, they varied somewhat paragraph length, and they've made it clear that they're writing a speech. There are 3 useful parts for this type of writing.